guys, how are you? I hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing another movie review. This movie is a horror film from the USA, English language, released in the year 2015, directed by Robert Eggers, and this film is called The Witch. So The Witch is set in New England in the old days. You've got a family from England who have migrated to the United States in search of a better life. They're devout Christians and they leave the compound that they're living in. So they decide to go together to this very isolated housing near the woods. So this is where they plan to start their new life, but their new life hasn't started very well because they can't grow any crops and they can't find any animals in the woods to hunt. So they believe that they're being cursed, that the way of God, their beliefs, that they have upset God and that He's turned their back. But then as the movie goes along and they get more and more bad luck, they start to believe that maybe black magic and witchcraft is playing a role and that maybe a witch is within this family. So they begin to turn on each other as the situation gets to the level of desperation and all hell is about to break loose in what is going to conclude into a very bizarre and surreal way. So what that is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Witch. This movie was hyped like you wouldn't believe. I haven't actually recalled a horror film in recent memory that has been hyped as much as this. Everyone's saying it was a brilliant horror film, that it was a masterclass in atmosphere, and that it's a horror movie that's really going to set the benchmark. So expectation levels were very, very high. Unfortunately, I couldn't see it in cinemas in Australia, but when I came back to Argentina, I was able to see it. And so I was very thankful of that. And I can say that although the movie doesn't reach the hype that I was expecting it to, it is still very memorable in the fact that it is a movie that is not done very often. As far as horror films are concerned these days, it is all about jump scares, it's all about nudity and excessive gore. And it's basically lazy filmmaking, and because they don't concentrate on the right areas, they're not very scary. So basically when you come to horror, you're expecting to be terrified, but you're rarely terrified. And I think that The Witch really understands what it is about terror, about discomfort. It's about paranoia, it's about not knowing where to go and what to do. There's no safety net. And so I think The Witch is definitely a love letter to the old-fashioned horror films that didn't have blood and gore around every corner, that didn't have jump scares, and that actually genuinely frightened you. And so the tension in this film is second to none. I thought it was sustained tension. I thought although the movie does have slight problems in its continuity, it was maintained to a level where you think that it was extreme discomfort, that you actually felt that this family was starting to deteriorate under desperation, and that there's a lot of themes in the film that do play a role. And because of all these themes that are swirling around, you feel that strong sense of dread that Robert Eggers wants you to feel. So to start off with, cinematography was very cold, dark and dank. You felt that there was no hope, that there was no food, and that how are these people going to survive? And then all of a sudden, this is where the religious theme comes in. They're praying to God, they're asking God for help, and it shows you the dangers of blindly following God and not having a backup plan. And when God doesn't answer your prayers, is He turning His back on you, or are you just in that sort of paranoid state where you need someone to blame? And then the movie starts to spiral into a very dark, dark sort of dark road where witchcraft and satanic sort of Satanism is starting to come into it. And I think that the movie, it shows you how terrifying not only the days back then were, but also to some extent the mentality of people in today's world. As opposed, a case example with terrorism, we caught Osama bin Laden, we killed Osama bin Laden, then all of a sudden the world is a safer place because we've put a name, we've put a face to something that terrifies us. But in reality, it's not going to make it safer because someone else is going to come in and take the place, and you're not really addressing the problem. But because we've actually embodied that problem, all of a sudden it's better. But in this movie, it showcases that mentality in that things are going very bad, so all of a sudden the family needs someone to blame, whether it's witchcraft or whether it's God turning His back. You have someone to blame, and that gives you comfort. But ultimately, because you're not addressing the problems are going to get worse and worse. And that's what I thought the most intriguing thing about The Witch was. Not only is it heavily religious themed, but it is about blaming something because of how desperate you are and how dangerous that mentality can be, especially when it comes to your own family. So the acting from Ralph Ineson, who played the father, a very blind sort of devout Christian, thought he was absolutely fantastic. A very likeable guy. You could feel that he was under the pressure, that his wife was starting to lose her marbles, and that he was trying everything to help her, but basically this family were crumbling under the pressure. And once again, that symbolises the pressure in today's world, with poorer families. When things are going really bad, the stress and the desperation that can come as a result of that, and a lot of people will turn to alcoholism or will do drugs in order to cope with it. And I think this movie it showcases something that is more relevant than just a straight out horror film. So there are a lot of themes that I thought intertwine in this movie to make it very, very memorable. So the acting from the supporting cast was absolutely fantastic. The wife, very sympathetic once again. Then you've got the children who were very surprisingly good. Now when it comes to child actors, I'm not really sure what to expect, but these really nail it. There was one scene inside a stable that really required the young boy to have a strong performance, and he absolutely nailed it, and I thought it was one of the most haunting scenes I've seen in quite a long time. The soundtrack was absolutely fantastic. The score just contributed to the sense of dread and discomfort that the movie wanted, and so it is a genuine horror film. It's a genuine psychological horror film that intertwines a lot more than just a standard sort of story, and as a result of that, I really have to applaud it. So if you like films from Roman Polanski or even Alfred Hitchcock, then you're going to really like this. It has a very strong subtlety that basically accumulates to something very big towards the end, and it's a very rewarding payoff. Now, my problems with this movie are the dialogue. I thought the dialogue it's a different kind of English. Now, I can understand that it is set in this period and you're not going to use the English that we use these days, but there were moments where I just thought to myself, okay, could you repeat that? I didn't quite get it. And so, although, as I said, the realism is there, but there is a strong sense that it was going a little bit too far, because ultimately you're here to enjoy the experience, and some of the dialogue was a little bit off, but fortunately it doesn't derail the experience. And then I've got a problem with the continuity. In some areas I thought the pacing of the film could have been a little bit better. It could have got to the point a little bit quicker than it actually does. But those are very little problems in what was ultimately a very good film. Not the masterpiece a lot of people are saying, but it's still definitely a movie I would recommend. So overall, for The Witch, atmospherically, very, very good. There were some very tense moments. It is very, very dark. It does show you Satan's satanic sort of approach to the world, and also the conflicting sort of emotion of God. So if you aren't a fan of religious themed films, then stay away from this one. But if you want a movie that is genuinely going to creep you out, then I would highly recommend The Witch. So overall for this film, going to give it 4 stars. Go out there and see it. Alright guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies. See you later.